Two things. The pronouncement by Wilson Sossion here that any pronouncement by the court, Parliament is not bound by it. What is the process? If at all you disagree with a court pronouncement, isn't it to appeal the same?
It actually hurts us to, as lawyers and the legal fraternity to hear that the rulings in court can be handled in any other manner so as to satisfy a certain section of Kenyans that yes, the speaker can override or ignore the ruling of the court. I will tell you for free, and this is actually the position that the institution given the mandate to handle disputes is the High Court of Kenya, is the judiciary, magistrates, Kadhi's courts, High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. This is the institution mandated, not with distributing revenue of the country. That is the executive. But in terms of once there's a dispute, and by the way, even when, and I don't want to use this in sarcasm, but even when a case may look like it is hopeless, the place where it is determined is not in Parliament, is not in the executive, is in the judiciary. So if we have to look at the sanctity of institutions, the mandated institution to handle disputes, however flimsy or however plausible, it is the judiciary. And then the rulings coming from the judiciary, by all means, must be respected, one, or number two, they must be fought. And you can fight them in the Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, East African Court of Justice, wherever. But it should go through that methodology to avoid conflicts that, disorder and all that kind of thing. My colleagues here are talking about that there is no question who is a majority or a minority. When I go back to my handles, I said this in 2022 in November, that then Kenya Kwanza were actually plucking unripe fruits when they decided to quickly come together to fill the gap that then was a minority to become a majority. Nobody is disputing these figures. They have said 154 and the other figures. The issue in court was, have you signed post-election agreements, and have you deposited that with the Register of Parties? And the evidence before the court was that no, they had not. So you can't casualize that, because the courts cannot come out of their duty of sitting inside the court and come to hear the evidence outside here in the media, in the streets. They have to go as per what is filed before them. So as far as the majority by the 2022 elections was concerned, Azimio had more numbers. Kenya Kwanza, of course, quickly, and that is a characteristic of Kenya Kwanza, and particularly our head of state, being smart enough to know, to figure out how he would lead, he quickly reached out to certain members of parliament, and they agreed to join, especially from, I think, UDM, there were, I don't know how many, so many members from, a coalition like 10 came in, others from this side, others from that side. You cannot rule out the fact that people are bought. You cannot rule out the fact that people who are hungry were, offered some incentives, and they joined Kenya Kwanza. So Kenya Kwanza became an artificial majority, and that is what the High Court is saying. There is nothing wrong if today you want to correct that. You cannot sit put, in Parliament and say, I have made this ruling, the majority is this side, when the evidence available shows that you actually did something to balloon your majority. Kwa hivyo, we should not really casualize what happens in the courts, number one. Number two, the institutions allowed to, the speaker has his role, both in standing orders, in the constitution. We know parliament what they should do. But you cannot disregard what is being said by the courts, depending, based on the evidence that they have actually, received. So I think Millie Odhiambo is correct. Let me tell you, Fred, the power and the politics are totally different. Whether you are in a broad-based government, if the ODM side smell that we are likely to do well by going to sit on the majority side, they will give Speaker Wetangula very hard time. And actually, they can actually impeach him. It's not far-fetched.
Allow us to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue this, because I also want Wakili's opinion on the continued stay of Moses Wetangula as leader of Ford Kenya. Let's take a break. You're watching Morning Cafe. We'll be right back.